us right now. I have not gotten that deep into Virginia after last night and what I've dealt with this morning. So um, that's as far as I'll go with it. But
Recording in progress.
I'm open. Let's go.
Just coming off last weekend and having to play Saturday, the doubleheader, and then obviously this week's a Thursday, Saturday series. Just will you have to kind of adjust the rotation at all, or will you have to bounce someone up 2 days, or just how will you kind of approach that?
A little bit of both. Abraham will throw tomorrow, and that lines up. And we've tried at times to find ways for him to start. I think the last game in Omaha, he started, and he's got 4 good pitches. When those things are functioning, he is really, really good. Mike has done a great job of developing the cutter. We know the curveball's in play. His changeup has become very effective, and he moves the fastball around enough. So he'll throw Thursday, and it is tough. When you can't play Friday and then you play a doubleheader and then Sunday, you're in a little bit of a tizzy, and I'm sure Virginia's in the same boat. I always look at the health and the safety of the guys first. That's first. Then you try to align things clearly to put the team in position to win. And Abraham does that last night, fortunately. Like that's a good team. And we were able to separate, and it saves some things for us out of the bullpen. So we may be going into tomorrow's game maybe a little fresher out of the bullpen than how you envisioned when the game started yesterday. So kudos to our guys for playing a nice game. But this is a super regional series. That's what it is. And very good team coming in here. Historically, very balanced. Same thing, physical lineup, balanced. And, they've got a variety on the mound, and, they're going to have to make some modifications, I'm sure, in what they're doing. But this is a super regional type series.
If it's John tomorrow, does that mean, are you keeping Jamie and Joey where they've been Friday, Saturday, and then Wes, you find a bullpen extended kind of where you can find something for him?
Yeah, I mean, Jamie's going to go Friday, and then Bellini will go Saturday, and then we'll probably use Mendez somewhere in there. It probably makes more sense for him to throw Saturday. If we need him, he threw a lot. These guys threw a lot. So what was Mendez over 100 pitches on? That was Sunday. This all jumbles together. So you train these guys for once a week, and eventually these guys may, in professional baseball, get used to throwing every 5th day, not every 7th day. So we're trying to be smart. But part of the success we had last weekend was that we did get length out of our starters. So then when you flip that calendar and it's a little earlier, what turned out to be a very positive part of the Virginia Tech series makes you do some tricky manipulation to be safe with the guys for this one.
I guess following up with that, Coach, with John, what's his pitch count at? How far do you hope he goes? And will Thursday kind of just be a bullpen game after he's done throwing?
He's probably capable of throwing 60, 70 pitches. And Jordan, we talk a lot about the stress of this. Sometimes, 30 or 40 pitches, if you constantly have base runners and traffic and you're trying to pitch out of jams, and like the magnitude of the pitches might change. If it's very clean, and sometimes things lengthen out, and he might be able to get you 60, 70 pitches. We have stretched him at times, and he was built up in the preseason, and that's been a long time ago, but he's had some extended outings. So this isn't your traditional, like, hey, let's get out of the gates and he throws an inning or two and then try to piece it together. I hope we get a legitimate start where it's a little more than a few innings, but he's got to execute. And like when we stand there after those games and talk about the good and the bad, it starts with the pitch execution and the quality of the stuff. Those two, when combined, you're going to get depth of outings. If not, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle to get through one inning. So if he's on it, there's a chance he stays out there for 4 or 5 innings.
Go ahead.
Does the freshness in the bullpen, you add a bit of support with John out there? If things go a little south, you have somebody.
You were in and out there, but yeah, our bullpen is fresh. I couldn't ask for a better segment of the season where we actually were able to get guys some rest. And the season has different phases to it and how things work. And you go through periods of time where your starters are really good, and you may go through periods of time where the starters are not as effective, and then that bullpen gets taxed. So we're just in one of those phases right now where the starters were good. We played really good defense, and it limited the workload of the bullpen. And just by nature of that, we do have some guys that are fresh. Now, does that mean they're going to be lights out because they're fresh? Can't answer that. It's hard to predict some of these things, but it does give them a chance to breathe and catch their breath.
I'm curious from your perspective, from kind of how things were on the mound to how they've been in the last 5 games. Let's maybe starting with the Florida game. What's been the biggest difference on the mound? It's felt like allowed you to be in positions where the offense can win you games, and you might not even need a ton of runs to win games.
Mike and I looked at some in-depth things that we thought we needed to adjust. And that's more in-house stuff. I don't want to really reveal some of the things that we thought we needed to adjust, but I feel like it did help a little bit in the pitcher-catcher relationship and how we were calling things and what we were asking in certain situations. So without going too deep into it, even Micah last night after the game, he felt like some of the things that we tried to adjust may have helped. And again, the quality of the stuff and the pitch execution is clearly the most important thing. Are we doing things to help the players maximize that is the question Mike and I asked ourselves. And some of it involves the catching. They're involved in every one of these pitches and how it's presented and received. And so maybe that helped. We clearly have talented guys, and you would think over the long haul, Jamie Arnold is going to have some success. And we've seen Vellini and Mendez and Joe Charles and Martinez and Prescott and Ben Barrett and Lauk and Kinnear. Like, there's some capable guys. So that helps too. But things we're trying to maybe adjust in competitive moments. If you're not making minor adjustments as you go, you're probably failing to try to help the guys along. And we felt like we needed to do that. So I don't really want to tell you exactly what some of those things were, but it was the relationship of pitcher catcher, us calling, what we were doing, the expectation that maybe led us to maybe a simpler approach to the pitching.
Coach, you mentioned the pitcher-catcher relationship. I think Carnes has 3 straight games with 2 hits. Has he also started to come along in the last week or so and started to adjust to the grind of a college baseball season?
It looks like it, and the guys get beat up back there, and he was battling a couple things that, it's not like injured, it's just beat up. There's 2 different things. Like, some guys are injured and there's something you have to try to work through. Other times, guys are just beat up in awkward ways, and you may not be 100%, and you're taking foul balls off the thighs and off the feet and off the hands, and that sometimes affects your overall game. But I told you from the get-go, he's one of the most advanced freshman hitters that I've had. Now, no entering freshman is used to catching this environment, the 9-inning games, the stuff on the mound, the blocking, us barking at them when things aren't going right. There's a lot of demand on that position. So yes, it does take time for these guys to settle, and he's talented. And I think you'll continue to see the evolution of his at-bats. I think you're seeing a pretty high-level freshman catcher behind the plate, and I think you're seeing the same thing out of Miles. There's clearly things both of those guys have to learn and work on, but man, freshmen on schedule, competing at this level, they're doing it.
You kind of touched on Miles's play last night, but overall as a whole, I think the one question was how he was going to be at first base defensively. Just his growth at that position. What have you seen from him?
Universal growth. The work around the bag. I talk a lot about, I think, good umpiring, good catching, and good first base play. It just blends right in, and it looks very easy. And he does a lot of things over there that are small details of the position that I notice, and we've worked hard. Like if you watch some of the things we do with those guys with the pitching machine, making throws and low throws and high throws and positioning on the bag and the timing of when you actually catch and step, and then the general positioning of how we align, he's learned a lot. And it doesn't look like a freshman, not to mention a freshman that's never played the position. I'm really proud of him. And he works hard on hitting, but he works equally as hard on what he does at first base. And it has clearly helped us. And some of the plays he's made last night, as good a play as you could make, some of the stuff he does left and right, really, really spectacular. And the size, when you're that big and rangy, that's also an advantage. If you're 5'10" and you're playing first,
Link, no. Link. There you are. You were saying, Coach.
Figure out maybe I talk too much. Are we back?
Yeah, you're back.
Coach, just back to the pitching real quick and just the weird nature of this sport. This is kind of, I think, like the time last year that like Carson Dorsey went from uneven reliever to relied upon starter for you. I don't know if like John Abraham, Ben Barrett fit that bill of being a guy that can just kind of emerge at this point in the season. Do you, going into like February, like do you say to yourself, like, this is a guy that might not be doing well, but maybe in 3 months he's going to be an important piece? And do you see guys like that kind of rising up? And oh, you're still there. All right. I thought you moved on my screen. I thought you left. That was a bad question, but I didn't think it was that bad of a question. But your thoughts on that?
You go into this and you try to prepare each individual to the best of your ability as a coach and to maximize what they're doing when the season starts. As that season goes, it's hard to predict what's going to happen. You just don't know. Like you and nobody knows. We're in the middle of that thing last year, and Cam Leiter's gone. Like he's out. He's totally out of the equation. So how do you adapt? How do you overcome? What do you do? Dorsey wasn't throwing weight. To think of the things that happened to that poor guy out of the bullpen, you can't write a worse script in some of those cases. And so you have to go with your feel. Like you can't be so hard-headed with it that you're closed-minded to the point of not trying some different things. And you may have an entry method to how you want this to go in February, and it's rarely going to end the way it starts. I go back a couple years ago. It's somebody sent me a picture of the super regional in Knoxville, just some crazy thing. We ended the games in Knoxville and in the regional and in Omaha at Notre Dame with a freshman that had never pitched out of the bullpen in his entire life. These things take shape, and sometimes you have to ride the wave of what seems to be working, and you just don't always know what that's going to be. So I coach with feel, and I have the best assistant coaches in the country, and they push me and help me, and we use our feel for these things, and you try to match up and get a vibe from how the guys look to you in competition and make the best decision you can. So your map in this thing only can go so far because it rarely plays out the way you anticipated when you started.
Link, I know you said you kind of haven't done a ton of Virginia work, but you did play them twice last year in the ACC tournament and in Omaha. And I know they brought back a lot of players from that team. I guess speak about, I guess, the players they brought back from that team. They started the year, I think, the second ranked team in the country. Just the challenge they presented last year that a lot of those guys carry over.
They're just like, they're physical. They do such a good job throughout the years of their approach. Like they game plan it up going into games as well as any team that I've coached against. And they will absolutely wear you out if you can't make adjustments in game. They're very physical. They're usually rangy, athletic, left-handed bats, right-handed bats. And again, the rest of my night and then tomorrow is to get a little bit more detailed about their personnel. But Brian and Kevin, they put a really good product on the field every year. They have a good niche. They recruit nationally. The brand speaks for itself. Very consistent, very poised, tough. They're tough. And we were fortunate in Omaha. Like, we played a really good game to come out on top there. But very, very physical and dangerous and dynamic. So you're kind of on the edge of your seat every time you play them.
Coach, you mentioned this kind of having a super regional type feel. Obviously, you're 2/3 of the way through the season. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but do you at all try to stack up seeding or resumes or think about that stuff kind of as the calendar turns into late April and then into May?
I couldn't tell you one thing about a seeding or a record or zero. Now, when I have to handle that, when I was doing the coaches poll and when I was responsible for evaluating the teams for the regional selection stuff, clearly, I had a different job on my hands. And I couldn't really tell you one thing about record, ranking, bad, good. Like, I within the context of the safety of the guys on the field and the pitching, I'm trying to position the team to win the game we play the next time we step on the field. And I know if we can do that, and I know if the players approach it that way, whenever this thing's over, then we've done the best we can do. And if that's not good enough to be in a regional or host a regional or who knows what, like, then it ain't good enough. But right now, to me, that stuff is meaningless. Don't care, don't know. I just want to watch the guys go on the field and perform and try to get as close to maximizing their potential as they can get. That's it.
Coach, I had a question about Max. Somebody smarter than me was pointing out the fact that they thought that obviously what makes Max great is just like his absolute anger at the plate and wanting to vanquish the baseball. But, that game-winning hit he had against Wake Forest was kind of a more measured approach. Last night, he doubles Oppo down the line. How do you kind of balance what makes Max great, but then also maybe realizing sometimes if he dials back, he can be just as helpful for you guys in the lineup?
Yeah, he's Mad Max. Like, that guy fights, man. He's fighting. He's very smart. Like, he's very instinctive and intuitive, and he plays angry. Like, he plays the game with that attitude. And I think a lot of your elite players have that. And he expresses it sometimes. Like, we see it. He gets upset, and the guy likes to win. He likes to succeed. He likes to play. And there's a lot riding on this stuff for these guys. Like, I mean, we had a player on this field last year that's in the major leagues right now. And that's that's another dimension that is in play for these guys. What is next, and how do you achieve those goals too? The statistical part, I think early in the season, he was upset because he was hitting the ball hard and didn't have a lot to show for it. He wasn't hitting a lot of home runs, and his swing is a very flat, level, line drive swing. He is at his best when, like, the best at bat he's had, quite frankly, was the game winner that Friday night. Last night, beautiful. Some of the home runs, like he's starting to finally look like he's on it a little bit. But that doesn't always mean for him home runs. He is a line drive hitter with tremendous power that is going to hit his fair share of home runs. And he knows it. He's at his best when the 6-hole and left center field and left field are in play. He is. So those are good signs. And, you know, some of the physical minor little modifications that we see him making seem to be helping. And again, the play in the outfield last night, that diving play he came in on off the bat, the catch probability of that is probably 5% high. What do you got? Like a line drive hit right there, no shot. And he makes some of those things look easy. So I'm proud of him. And I know he was frustrated early with how it was going, but it seems like as those moments have presented themselves, those at-bats have been pretty dang good.